Alright, this is Sergeant First Class Mercado. What we're going to go over are some of the expectations for this operations order gauntlet. So what I'm going to do for you is give you the actual format that we're going to use for the operations order gauntlet. We're going to use the Ranger Handbook op order format, and we're going to provide you a copy so that way you can fill it in. And I'm going to go over some of the key points that may not be fully explained in the instructions. So starting out from the top, you're going to include the time zone. In most cases, you can just do local time. Task organization, you can put it here before the situation paragraph or later on in an annex. So if you put it here, it's essentially going to be very similar each time. You're going to put the task organization if you know hires, task organization, or just focus on your platoon. Now there's going to be a few prompts, and we're going to try to add in a few more so that way you get some more guidance on when to go to your map or your TMK. The technique that you want to use when you first start out explaining the operations order is the orient, box, trace, and familiarize technique. You want to orient everybody to your map in regards to the objective and where north is, and you want to place your audience so that way they're facing toward the objective, and that you're not blocking the TMK, and you're creating the right conditions so that way people can pay attention to what you're saying and what you're trying to describe in your TMK. You want to be able to box the objective or the area of operation. This means that you're probably going to have to detail out the grid coordinates, or that how your area of operation fits within certain grid coordinates. So if it's, say, within one grid square, you want to be able to show on your TMK, my objective is between this grid square, Lima Mike 1-2, and this grid square, Lima Mike 1-3. You want to be able to trace any kind of routes or any kind of phase lines that are on your objective, whether those phase lines are given to you or you create them to increase the command and control within your operation. And you want to familiarize everybody to what you've placed on your terrain model kit. Some people may not understand what some of the icons or things that you've created on your TMK, what they represent. So before you start your operations order, it could be a good technique to explain what's on there. The situation paragraph, paragraph 1. You're going to explain the terrain and the area of interest. Typically this is given to you. If it's given to you, just restate it. Alright? If you want to add more information, definitely do that. Always trying to achieve this, meaning you're going to explain the what. Either you figure that out or it's given to you from higher, and you want to go into the so what. Alright, so what meaning, so what, how does it apply to me? Everyone's going to be trying to figure out, well, what does that mean to me, and why is that important? So in regards to train, just use the OCOC format. You already know this. Alright, you can, it's either going to be given to you, or you can just write it out in an OCOC format. The weather. Alright, you can use the 5 military aspects of weather and just cover them. If they're given to you, if they're not given to you, then you're going to have to find that for the day of execution for your operation. Once again, explain the so what. You're given this data, this information about the weather. How does it affect you, your troops, and your operation? If it's going to be raining, the mission could still be executed, but how does it affect maybe your movement into the objective? Enemy forces. Alright, this once again could be given to you. You can restate that. But if you want to get better at what you're explaining, think about the so what. Alright, in regards to strength, speak in terms of real numbers. Don't use a percentage. The disposition. Talk about how the enemy is oriented on the objective. The composition. How the enemy is task organized. All right. You want to be able to show on the map what your enemy is doing if you have the time and if you're able to do that. Now we're going to get into the friendly forces. You're going to get a higher level mission and intent. At the platoon level, which is the majority of the operations you're going to be doing for the rest of this semester and during camp, you want to get the battalion and company level mission and intent and be able to state that. The reason why you're saying this is to give your troops, your peers, the reason why you're even out there and what everybody else is doing. If you're able to describe that and help people understand that, then you can give your subordinates some more initiative because they understand the reasons why they're out there. The missions of adjacent units. Once again, if you are first platoon and you're given the mission, task, and purpose of your adjacent units, then you want to show that on your TMK and be able to explain that, all right, on your TMK as you're talking through this operations order. So this could be a good time for you to start to go back to your TMK and explain that if you don't already explain it initially in your first description of your training model kit. Your attachments and detachments. All right, if you are given any, then you want to be able to just list that out here. All right, now we're going to get into the mission statements. The 5 W's. Answer that. You all know to read it twice, so just do that. During this point in time, you want to point out the exact location of the objective and the unit's present location. The execution. All right, once again, a higher level. Battalion and company. State the commander's intent. The concept of the operation. Now you're getting to, so this is what we want. We want you to explain the different phases of the operation. There's typically going to be 4 phases, and that's phase 1, which is plan and prepare. Phase 2, the movement. Phase 3, actions on the objective. And phase 4, movement back to your patrol base. In each of these phases, you're going to have to figure out what is critical to this phase. For instance, plan and prepare. What's critical to this phase? It could be, well, I just have to make sure I brief my operations order. During your movement phase, what's critical to this phase? It could be, I just don't want to lose anybody during this phase or be compromised by the enemy. Actions on the objective. What's critical to this phase? It could be ensuring that my assault by fire or support by fire position is in place without being compromised. And moving back to the patrol base. What's critical to this phase? Once again, it could be, alright, what's critical? We just don't get lost back to the patrol base. You're going to have to just figure that out based on what you envision for your mission. Scheme of movement and maneuver. Alright, so this is really the bread and butter of your operations order. Just like Cadet Hitchcock explained during the JTA lab, if you don't have time to spend too much effort in the other paragraphs, this is really where you need to get it into. This is where you have to be really good at doing some analysis, planning, and presenting it so that way your platoon understands what you want to happen. You want to cover a movement plan, a reconnaissance plan, your occupation plan, initiation plan, engagement criteria, control measures, actions on the objective, your consolidation, reorganization, withdrawal, and compromise. So for instance, you want, last time we were at the JTA or when we were in class, we went over some movement to like a patrol base. We went over actions on the objective for a platoon attack. You want to be able to verbally describe the plan for everything involved, from movement to withdrawal. If there are any routes you want to describe the direction, distance, order of march, the formation, and the movement techniques that you're going to use. For your actions at the halt, or your different actions, you want to describe actions at the halt, actions during danger areas, and actions at rally points, and your actions on contact. All right, some of these may be already in an SOP, but you can't really say, hey, this is SOP if you don't even have that yet. All right, if you say that during your operations order gauntlet brief, we'll probably ask you, well, what is the SOP? If you can't explain that, or if it's not generally understood, then it's not something that you probably should say. Scheme of fires. For right now, we will not get too heavy into this. So if you don't brief it, that's going to be okay for this week. Your CASEVAC plan. All right, so this is something that's usually glanced over, but it's really important. You can brief it, or you can have your platoon sergeant cover this in the sustainment paragraph. Essentially, what we're looking for is that there's some thought into where you're going to put some CCPs at each phase of the operation. Each of those 4 phases, you or your platoon sergeant is thinking about where you're going to put a casualty collection point, and if possible, where you're going to set up a HLZ, helicopter landing zone, if someone gets injured and they have to get aero medevaced for further treatment. If you're given some of these coordinating instructions, you want to list that. All right, so you want to look here, time schedule. Make sure you adhere to the 1/3, 2/3 plan and create a backwards plan. All right, so you want to be able to give everybody this information: the time, place, uniform, priority rehearsals, back briefs, inspections, and movements. This is going to be a big deal. This is something that we've noticed the group is typically weak on. You lose track of time because you don't actually plan out your time, and then you typically don't leave the patrol base on time, and it creates a situation now where you're rushing through your operation. The big deal here is that we need you to conduct rehearsals. You're not getting to that phase and you're rushing it, all right? But there are 4 types of rehearsals you could do in a patrol base. You could do a full force rehearsal. That's where maybe you're in a situation where you can have the entire platoon walk through the actual operation. You could do a reduced force. Maybe you keep 2 squads or 3 squads on the perimeter. You bring 1 squad in at a time. You brief that squad on the order, or you have that squad brief their version of operations order to the subordinates. They're able to use your TMK, and they're able to go through the rehearsals at the squad level. You could do a back brief. This is different from a confirmation brief that you ask at the end of your operations order. Here, you're just giving your subordinate leaders some time to plan that 1/3, 2/3, and then you're calling them back and you're telling them, hey, tell me what this operation is and show me that you understand it. You could also do a rehearsal of concepts or rock drill. You take key leaders, your squad leaders, and you make them all go through the operation on your TMK. At each phase, you're giving them time to explain and show what they're doing, their task and purpose at each phase of the operation. The sustainment paragraph. All right, this is going to be typically given to you. We're not going to get too deep into this, but have the platoon sergeant fill this out. Have them brief this. Have them brief every line. All right, an excellent platoon sergeant is going to be able to describe the CCPs for this. And command and control. Without getting too far into this, this is typically going to be given to you, right? But you want to be able to describe as much information as possible.